Subscribe if my Catan videos are halfway decent or any good. Catanians, this is a nice game of basic Catan with Harbormaster. 3 players only, although I do like to cast in as much madness as I can and play with 4 players on that basic board because as you all know, the board can get very crowded with 4 players, and later on in the game, less spaces to build on. I've actually played the computers and I've soft-locked the game by running out of room to build on the board, and no one could acquire any more victory point cards, and the development card stack was empty because everyone had already drew from it and exhausted the pile. So at that point there was actually no way to win. But of course, I had modified the victory points to play, instead of to 10 or 11, we were playing to like 14 or 15 victory points, I believe, before they updated the Catan Universe app. So for this one, you may question my first settlement placement, but I have a theory that stone and wheat will be very popular choices because there's only 4 wheat hexes, 6 is the best wheat number, and for stone, 9 is the better stone number, but I was like, I really want to secure a spot on that 6 wheat, but I also want to have a halfway decent stone number, so I grab a 3, and I get a 12, maybe 12 will get rolled. But for me, I was like, I want to get that good stone and wheat spot so that I can make sure I get at least 1 city this game, because as y'all know in Harbormaster, when you're building on the ports, if you upgrade a settlement that's on a port to a city, it's now worth 2 in terms of getting, 3 strength or whatever you want to call it for the Harbormaster, 2 additional victory points. So if you have 3 settlements on 3 different ports, you get Harbormaster. If you have a settlement on 1 port and a city on another port, it's the equivalent. But then of course you have to make sure no one else goes out and builds on 4 separate ports with settlements or 2 separate ports with cities, because then they will take your Harbormaster, you'll lose 2 victory points, they will gain 2 victory points. And for my second placement, I chose the 3-4-5 over there by the stone port, and I didn't go for the 8-3 immediately with the stone port. I wanted to go build towards that because I wanted diversity of numbers, and I didn't want to have to contest with blue for the spot that I built my second settlement on, because I wanted to have that initially, and I figured that blue would see that area was gone and kind of start branching out to other areas of the board and kind of not worry about trying to fight me for the stone port with a 3 wheat and the 8 sheep. Additionally, I did not build on any sheep to begin with, but I was like, if I can get on that port as soon as possible, then I'll gain an 8, which is a really great number, and I'll gain sheep as a resource coming in. The only reason for doing this really is placing down your second settlement, of course, gives you 1 of each of those resources that you built on, and you see I get an automatic road from the 4-5, so the 4 lumber, the 5 brick. That way I know I can get to that built on that stone port that much quicker, because if I start out with a road, then I knew that I was going to roll first, so there's no way that someone else would roll a 7 and steal a card from me, potentially steal a lumber or a brick that I would need for that first road. So yeah, that's the plan stand for this game. Get on that 3-for-1 port as soon as possible, and then focus on expanding out with our first settlement placement. Maybe over to the sheep port eventually. The not very good numbers attached to the sheep port, 11 lumber, 12 ore, but still would be nice because I'll have the 8 sheep to have the sheep port, taking benefit of that later on in the game. And another thing that helps me out is I don't have to worry about battling blue for the stone port, because they took a different direction and went over to the 3-for-1 port up on that 10 wheat. And gray is, it looks like they'll probably end up going for the wood port, in my opinion, because they're on the 4 wood. I think they're going to want to get on that 3-for-1 port with a 5 brick first, and then worry about the wood port. Because remember, Harbormaster, everybody is, if you play enough Harbormaster, you know that extra rule, everybody's going for as many ports as they can. But you want to go, the first port you want to go for is one that's going to help you out the most before just getting ports just for the sake of having them. So I think gray will go for the wood port way before they even think about trying to go for that cheap port. So I'm not worried about trying to block them off with roads over to that cheap port. So I think we're good on that. And of course, this is a board with the desert hex smack dab in the middle. And with that in mind, that kind of drives everyone to build outward to the edges of the board, to the coastline. Because usually people, obviously, they don't want to build in a desert hex because it doesn't produce any resources. But it all depends on the other 2 resource hexes in question that are attached to that desert hex that you would consider building on. So the only good spot really is that 6 wheat 5 brick, because you can't build on the 4 lumber 9 ore spot because blue already has a settlement 1 position away from that spot. So that desert hex spot is off the table now. So really the only good spot, well, I guess you could go for the 9 ore 11 wheat spot if you really needed some more ore and you hope for a few 11s throughout the game. But that, I would only go for that spot if I was in a position where I didn't build on any wheat at all, honestly. So again, that's why I went for the 6 wheat. And now that I'm on the stone port, of course my wheat's going to get shut down by the night. I couldn't guess where a better spot would be to put it, honestly. So it does make sense from blue to play that on me. So I'm going to have to buy myself a development card. And instead of getting a night, I get a year of plenty. So that actually, for me, I preferred that better. Because now I can try to save up for the cards I need. And the year of plenty, at any time I want, I can get 2 extra cards from the bank of my choice. And I can try to build when I want to build on a single turn and not have to worry about someone using the night on me or rolling a 7. But of course, 6s are getting rolled by blue, and I'm not getting any wheat. But that's okay because I already have a wheat. So at this point, I'm like, I really want to build a road and a settlement. Now that I already did that to get to the stone port, let me go ahead and do it again, see if I can get on that very hot spot with the 9 brick, 6 wheat, 10 wheat. Because if I can get on there and prevent blue from building on that spot, because blue is about to get the 3-for-1 port, and I don't want them building on just a highly, highly productive spot. So I'm going to see if what I really need right now is I need a 5 or I need a 4. Because a 5 is going to give me a brick. I can year of plenty, another brick, and then a lumber. And there's my road and settlement. Or if I get a 4, I get a lumber, and then I can just year of plenty 2 brick. And we'll be achieving our same goal. Instead, I do roll a 3. So now I kind of have a few options here. As I get a sheep. So I'm still at 7 cards. I'm under 8. So if I roll a 7, I won't be screwed over. I won't be burning cards. But because I rolled that 3, I now have a single ore with 3 wheat. So I could year plenty 2 more ore on top of that, and I could build a city. And this is kind of a very big decision, a big fork in the road. Do you build the city now and risk blue taking your spot on the 9 brick, 10 wheat, 6 wheat? Or do you go ahead and take that spot so you know you have it for the rest of the game and deter blue from trying to build over any more into that area? So I was like, I think it might be better to get the city, so that way every time my numbers are rolled with that city, I'm going to get double of what I originally would have gotten by just having a settlement. And over the course of the game, having double the resources come in over 5, 10, 15, 20 turns, that's really going to help out. So I go ahead, I decide to do that. And of course, I can't make the 6 wheat any more hot. It's just going to get shut down a lot. So I figure, why not put it on the 3, 4, 5? Knowing that this is Harbormaster, I could have put it on the 8-3 with the stone port and then just built on one more port and gotten Harbormaster. But it's all about production right now, because I can always come through later and steal Harbormaster, or just really steamroll through the game with like a bunch of resources coming in. So I decided to upgrade that settlement on 3, 4, 5 because I don't see it getting shut down as much as that 6 wheat. The 6 wheat is still pretty darn good. The 8 sheep, probably not going to get shut down that much, because sheep, as opposed to wheat, is not, terribly important. But they do go ahead, they shut down the 3 wheat. And I was like, that actually works out better for me, because now they left the 6 wide open. So all I have to do is wait for, hopefully 6s to get rolled a lot, as the probability of the dice would suggest. And if they want to shut down the 6, then the 3 will be open, and that'll be 3 wheat off a 3 roll, plus I already have a 3 ore hex, so that'd be 4 cards off a 3. So you really sometimes got to try to figure out how to set yourself up that way, so that even if they shut something down, it doesn't completely bring your progress, your momentum to a standstill. You want to still have options in your back pocket that you can still build stuff even if one of your hexes gets shut down. And this is kind of like a secondary strategy, if you will. So having those extra options, and look, it goes right back to the 6 wheat, but now the 3 is wide open. So I know 3's not going to get rolled as much, but when it does, that is going to be a good production roll for me. So the secondary strategy is, instead of trying to constantly build knights to keep battling all the 7s because you're going to get shut down, battling the other players also building knights to shut you down, just do a little something like this and just be so diverse in your numbers and your resources that they don't really know what to shut down, or they can't completely shut you down. You can still have room to keep progressing in the game and not be brought to a standstill and just have to watch the other players, build more victory points while you're stuck at a certain number. I can't tell you how many times that's happened, and me and my buddy were actually talking about that. At certain points in games of basic Catan or even Cities and Knights, you won't be getting any resources for like 5 turns in a row, and it can happen at any point in the game, and you're like, this sucks. Like, how is this happening? Like, I have all these settlements and cities out on the board, I have all these different numbers, but yet somehow the dice is just missing my numbers and rolling other numbers, or people have one of my numbers shut down that keeps getting rolled, so I'm getting nothing. So you have to try to avoid that if you can. It's, of course, every game is different, every board is set up differently, it's hard to do. And at this point, we see that blue goes ahead and goes to that hot spot where the desert hex was that I was talking about, and I can't really fight him for it. I would need to have 3 lumber, 3 brick, and then my sheep and wheat to be able to build 2 roads and a settlement and steal that spot from him. But I just don't think that's going to happen. Thankfully, they built down to that spot instead of the 6 wheat, 10 wheat, 9 brick. I really thought they were going to go for that spot, but I think they figured if they went down to the desert, built on it, they could then try to link their road system up with their other road system and basically slice the board right in half, block out anyone else from coming over to, from Gray coming over to the right side of the board, or me cutting through down to the bottom left side of the board, and take longest road. Very good strategy, very good thought. So 6 gets rolled, I'm shut down on that 6, but I did build on that high production spot. 2 wheat hexes and a brick hex, very good numbers. What more can you ask for? So now I have 3 settlements on the board and a city. I'm sitting pretty at 5 points, but there's still more work to be done. Even though we're getting almost to the halfway point in this game, we see that Gray builds a settlement on the 3-for-1 port. So Gray has 1 port, Blue has 1 port, I have 1 port. So now we're all going to try to race to get to another port. And presumably one of us is going to upgrade one of our settlements that is on a port to a city and then take Harbormaster. And that's probably going to decide who wins this game. And thankfully I roll a 7. I can finally get the robber off my 6. And what do I get? I get another sheep. Doesn't help me in the slightest, so I just have to pass the turn. Gray plays a knight. And largest army is always a good strategy to have in addition with all the other stuff you're building. So they've been playing knights. I had a year of plenty. So if I were to draw another development card, I would hope to get a monopoly or a road building, honestly, because that would help me more than getting just one knight. Because I know at this point, I know I'm not going to take largest army. I know the other players have already played knights, and they're going to build more development cards, hoping to draw more knights. So you kind of figure that out at about, maybe a quarter of the way through, maybe halfway through. You start to realize, it's not worth it for me to go for largest army if I haven't played a single knight or built a single knight, and other players have played 1 or 2 knights. So you just kind of got to let them, run away with that. And a 12 does get rolled, so I do get a nice ore. That's really handy. So if I do get some wheat here, I may end up building a development card. But I do have that brick, so I'm really hoping for a 4 so I can keep expanding. What do you know? It's an 8. And 8s are hot, but for me, I'm only getting sheep, and I don't have a 3-for-1 port or a sheep port. So at this point, I'm like, you know what? Let me try to get to that sheep port and maybe see what I can do. I do roll a 6 right here, so I could do the development card. I just don't quite have enough for a city. And I know other players are probably not going to want to trade any ore. So yeah, the other 2 players, they have 1 knight played apiece, and some of them have development cards in reserve, ready to play. Presumably a knight or maybe even a victory point card, but we'll see as the game progresses. I go ahead, I do build development card to get a knight. It's not exactly what I want, but you know what? If I can keep the robber off my 6 for just a couple turns, then it's worth it to me, because that 6 is really instrumental in progressing my game, because I can trade in some other stuff like sheep for the ore, and then try to use that 6 for more development cards or getting another settlement. So I'm either looking at that sheep port, but I know I also want to get on that 3-for-1 port on the brick 9, and I am also kind of eyeballing blue. I'm like, what do they want to do at this point? Do they want to go for the brick port on the 6 sheep on the right of your screen? And yes, in fact they do. So if they're concentrating their efforts over that way, I don't quite have to worry about them going over to the 3-for-1 port on the 9 brick, because they already have a 3-for-1 port. So they would want the brick port first, and then maybe upgrade the 3-for-1 port settlement they have, or the brick port settlement to a city, and then grab Harbormaster that way. So grabbing the 9 brick 3-for-1 port is not that beneficial to them at all, except for blocking me out of that spot. So now I'm like, okay, if they're going to go that direction of the brick port, I can focus on going to the sheep port instead. And in that way, I'm getting a lot of sheep from the 8, so that's going to help me out in the long run. So I might want to go for that instead. And here I'm asking for cards. I just need 1 brick that I can build 2 roads. I do get an offer and just can't take it. So I'm kind of stuck. I'm like, I have to build some roads here. I can only build 1 road. I don't want to build the 1 road up top in between the 9 brick 10 wheat, because then blue's going to get put on high notice. They have 3 development cards in their reserve there. So if even one of them's road building, or even you're plenty, they can build 2 roads, cut me off over to that 3-for-1 port, and then my whole strategy's screwed. So I'm like, let me build the other way, just 1 road over to the sheep port, because I highly doubt that Gray is going to be able to build 3 roads to cut me off over to the sheep port. And I also figure that they would want to get on the wood port first anyways, like I previously mentioned. And what do you know? They have Euro plenty. So they're going to take 2 brick, and presumably 2 roads are coming out. And no, it's in fact just a road and a settlement. So interesting choice to double down on the 3 ore instead of going for the wood port, because they already have a 9 ore. So if I was them, I would have gone for the wood port instead to secure that, so I could trade in wood. You know, late game, you want to trade in your wood for ore and wheat to build cities. Because at this point, if you see, he has 5 settlements on the board. So now he has to go for the city next. So I would have gone for the wood port to ideally get the city faster in terms of trading in for it. But again, that's just me. Gray's going to do what they do, right? So at 7 is rolled. I always have more than 7 cards usually. So I have to burn cards, which I do. And I am close to a city, but I'm just not quite there. I need 2 ore. A 12 was rolled a couple turns ago, but my ore production is just very, very slow. So I'm going to go ahead and build another development card, and it's road building. So remember, I had Euro plenty earlier. Now I get road building. So that's going to help me out. Instead of trying to spend all my lumber and brick on roads, I can just try to save up 1 more brick, and then I'll be able to buy a settlement, play it on the board. Because of course, road building, I can place down 2 free roads, and what do you know? Blue gets largest army, uses the knight to shut me down. Thankfully does not take my lumber, because I desperately needed that. So at my turn, I'm going to want to roll a 5. That's basically a 5 or a 3 or a 6 would help me out to get that brick, because I could trade in some wheat for a 4-for-1 rate. But nope, I roll a 8, which is nice, but again, it doesn't really help me much. So I have to rely on either trading, or I do have my knight if I want to try to steal from someone. But we'll just see what happens here. So no one wants to take my trade. And at this point, Gray, they did build that settlement on the 3 ore, 4 lumber, 11 lumber. So I'm like, let me go ahead and use road building now, because I'm not sure if they want to build 2 roads to cut me off to that sheep port, because they're built on an 8 sheep and a 10 sheep. And I do take longest road. It wasn't... I guess it was okay. I didn't quite want to take it just now, because nobody's quite at 8 victory points yet. At 7 victory points, I start to worry about other players grabbing longest road, boosting themselves to 9, and then quickly winning the game right after that. So I do take longest road, which puts me at 7, so puts me on everyone's radar. And instead of cutting off Gray from getting over to the sheep port, I'm like, I gotta go to the 3-for-1 port first, just in case Blue decides to go on over there. Because the way the game's going, I'm not getting a lot of ore, so I'm gonna want to build on 3 different ports, and I'm very set up to do that. I'm just getting a lot of cards that are more tailored for roads and settlements. So I was like, you know what, let me just go for the 3-for-1 port first, so that Blue can't get to it, so I can guarantee that I have a really, really good shot at getting Harbormaster and consequently winning the game, because Harbormaster is going to boost me up an extra 2 victory points, and I'm 4 victory points away from winning, and building on the 2 ports, 1 settlement apiece, is the other 2 victory points I need. So that'd be a total of 4, and that's the victory right there. But I have to burn cards again. I think if you have to burn cards off of, I don't know, maybe more than like 7 rolls, you probably will not have a good chance of winning the game. Because if you're just getting rid of that many cards, think about it. If at minimum you get rid of 4 cards, right? Because if you have more than 7 cards, you would have 8. So half of that would be 4. So if you have to burn a minimum of 4 cards 7 times, that's 28 cards minimum you would have burned. So burning cards 7 times, I don't think it's possible to win. That'd be an interesting strategy, an unorthodox strategy to try to pull off. So I do build that road over the sheep port just to cut gray off from getting over there, and a crucial 12 is rolled. And I say crucial not because it like helps me out a lot. It's just that no one else is built on a 12, and this late in the game, having a number rolled that only benefits you and no one else is huge. Very, very helpful for you and getting yourself set up to possibly win late in the game. But of course, 8s are just popping. Everyone gets sheep off an 8. Everyone gets exactly 1 sheep off an 8. So now I really, really want to be on that sheep port. Blue plays yet another knight. They're at 5 knights at this point. And they steal my lumber. What do you know? They could have stolen my sheep. I roll a 9. That's the brick that I was going to get, but now my 9 shut down. They get an ore apiece, and now I'm getting pretty worried because gray is only at 5. But gray, if they get a city, then they're going to be rolling because then they can quickly build 2 roads and a settlement because I feel like they're very set up for that. And there goes that city. So now I'm like, you know what? They're probably going to go for that wood port. And yep, they're coming down. They do only build 1 road, so now I'm kind of curious. Will they go for the wood port or the wheat port? Because the wheat port gives you the better number, the 8, so doubling down on that as opposed to doubling down on 4. But, you know, sheep, they don't really need much of that at this point. They just need, you know, better trade-in values. So I would go for the wood port if I were them because they would triple down on the 4. So every time a 4 is rolled, they get 3 lumber. And it's honestly, it's a free road for them. That's basically a road because they could trade 2 lumber in for a brick, take the leftover lumber they had, pair it with a brick for a road, and be on their way. And 11 is actually very hot for them. No one else is built on 11 except for gray. They get 3 cards off an 11, and they do build exactly what I thought they were going to. They go to the wood port. Seems like they don't quite have the cards to build a settlement, even though they have 8 cards. A 7's rolled, so gray now has to burn 4 cards. Of course, I do as well, which is never fun to do. And I'm still stuck, you know? I am getting resources, but I'm just not getting the right resources I need to build a settlement. All I need to do is throw a settlement down the board on either port, because either port is going to help me way more than that ore port is, because I'm not getting a lot of ore at all. I mainly built on that port initially to stop anybody blue from building on it, so and gaining the 8 number, because you saw how many times 8 got rolled through this game. And what do you know? I rolled an 11. Gray should be able to build a settlement, and they roll a 2, so gray and blue get a lumber apiece. And so 2 and 11 get rolled. I get absolutely nothing. I'm stuck with 2 brick and a sheep. And this offer is looking pretty attractive to me, but I was like, man, I just need to wait it out because I know if I take that offer... Oh, actually, I do take that offer. I'm sorry. So I do take it. I help gray get a settlement. Now, if gray builds a city, they are most definitely going to build that city on the wood port or the 3-for-1 port, which will put them at 8. Then they'll boost themselves to 10 by gaining Harbormaster, and then they'll be 1 point away from winning. So I am on like very high alert. I'm like, I gotta make something happen here, and I roll a 7. So I know I'm only gonna get 1 card from stealing from someone, and that's just not gonna be enough to get that settlement. I'm so close. I have the 3 brick. I have the 1 lumber. And I'm going to grab a sheep. I just need a wheat. I don't see anyone trading with me, so I just pass the dice. If a 6 or a 10 gets rolled, and there's the 6. So I get 2 wheat. They get wheat for Actually, only blue. Yeah, me and blue get cards. Gray gets nothing. So blue gets a wheat and a sheep. I now have exactly what I need to build a settlement. And I'm actually not that far off from a second settlement. I just need another lumber, another sheep. And actually, I was 2 cards away at this point from winning the game, winning Harbormaster. So 5 gets rolled. It's not quite what I need, but it's nice to have more cards. So in case a 7 gets rolled, then I can burn a bunch of cards and still possibly be able to build my settlement, assuming no one steals the resources that I absolutely need. So it's my turn. I'm gonna roll. It's gonna be another 6. So I was like, wow, man, if an 8 was rolled and a 4 was rolled, those last 2 turns, I would have won. That would have been the win right there. So I go for the 3-4 port first because I didn't know how many sheep I was going to be getting these next few turns, and I knew I already had a bunch of brick and a bunch of wheat. So now I'm down to a 3-for-1 rate for trading for any resource, and I can 3-for-1 some brick and then grab either the lumber or the sheep. And at this point, it's a guessing game. Do I think the dice rolls are going to be rolling sheep for me or rolling lumber for me in these next few turns? Because at this point, all I need on this next couple turns is one of those numbers or one of those resources, and I can trade in for the other one. But I was like, instead of trading in right now, let me hold the cards I have. I still have under 8 cards. And of course the 7 gets rolled, so that was a wise move on my part because I know I'm getting stolen from because I have the most victory points, and they realize all I need to do is build on that sheep port and I'm winning. So actually Gray has 2 development cards in reserve. I really wonder what those were. They could have been victory point cards. They could have actually been at 9 victory points this whole time, and we're just looking to build a city on a port and win the game. But I don't quite know what they got going on. I know that I'm not trading with anybody at this point because I don't want to give anybody that late game advantage that could possibly end up letting them steal the win. So I'm just going to hold what I got. A knight comes out. Of course a knight comes out. So blues played all the knights, and they actually shut down Gray instead of me, which was a huge benefit to me. So I grabbed the brick off of the 9, and I have a trade in at a 3-for-1 rate, but I still need another roll. I still need some more resources, and there it is. Exactly what I needed. I could have also used a sheep off an 8 or some lumber off a 4, but I have just enough to trade in a 3-for-1 rate, build on that sheep port, grab Harbormaster, and I win the game. But keep in mind, the other 2 players were super close at taking Harbormaster. They just needed to upgrade one of their port settlements to a city, and they would have taken Harbormaster and probably would have won the game. So thanks for watching. That was a pretty close game. Always fun to play one of those and bring one of those to the YouTube. Let me know what you guys think. Am I getting any better at Catan? I hope so. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.